to know Jenny Boyett and her work with Colorworks and the Temperaments through my work with MOPS International, which is now known as MomCo. Saw her speak at a couple conferences. Then, as I was involved with PTA, I brought Jenny to present to our governance team, and then she also presented at our state convention last year. And the content of just knowing how we're all wired and how we can use that knowledge to encourage one another and lift each other up is just so important, I think. And it's what Christ calls us to do. So I'm so thankful to the Prister Endowment that allowed Jenny to come here in person. So I want to, and this would be content that Kurt would be all over, I know. So without further ado, I introduce to you Jenny Boyett.
Thank you. Well, it is an honor to be here, and Sonia has such a passion for this. It's so exciting for me when other people, you know, kind of see the vision and get the passion and want to spread it. So thank you for all of your work and dedication and volunteer hours here and through the PTA and through MomCon. It's admirable for sure. So I'm excited to be with us today, and we're going to have this be very conversational. So if you are at a place that you have thoughts or questions, this is not like I don't want to be the talking head all day, and so I would love for you to you know, raise your hand, have conversation, you know, push back on something, and we'll go from there. So a little bit about myself and why I'm even here getting into this. I'm a single mom, and I have 4 daughters. I have triplets that are now 21 years old, and a 16-year-old, just turned 16 a week ago yesterday. And where this really became passionate for me was back in 2012. My husband was struggling with addiction, and life was kind of upside down. I was working full-time at my church, and life was just kind of falling apart, if you will. And I was doing everything that I thought I needed to do. I was in counseling, I had gone to Al-Anon groups, I was plugged into local, you know, financial, money-wise organizations that could kind of come alongside our family and help navigate this. And I was in a Bible study, and the woman did mentorship for moms, and she brought up the Temperaments. And Florence Littauer, some of you might remember her, she wrote probably 40 books back in the 70s and 80s, and one was called Personality Plus, and then Personality Plus for Parents. And we did it, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. This is so helpful, because you parent, or at least I did, all the same. Like, I'm the same parent, I'm consistent, but for some reason it wasn't landing the same with each of my kids, and navigating all of the issues in my marriage and with my husband's addiction, it just felt like things were swirling. And so she had said, hey, I really think you should go meet with my friend Kathleen Edelman. She is a temperament coach. And I thought, okay, I've met with everybody and anything. If there's anybody that can help me, let's meet. So that's where I went and met with Kathleen, and she had studied under Florence for several years, and we just met one-on-one, and then she met with each of my girls, and she said, Jenny, they are delightful, but you and I should spend a little bit of time together. And I was like, oh no, I'm the problem, it's me. And what I started to really understand was about temperament, and how that plays into each person, and how we're uniquely wired with a temperament. God knits us together, you know, with perfect temperament that we are then given to a parent or a caregiver with a different temperament, and that's part of how we grow and learn, and opposites always happen, especially in families. So what we're going to talk about for this first section is all about a grown-up's guide to kids wiring. So whether you have kids at home and they're, you know, you're still rearing them in adolescence, or you could have adult kids that are, you know, off and maybe raising their own kids. This content has been so helpful, even for me and my parents, as we've navigated and been like, oh my gosh, we've had such aha moments of things as we grew up, and God's a God of perfect timing. And so this is the perfect time to hear this message, especially as we come into next week, which is Thanksgiving, and probably a lot of us are going to be around family and friends that we may not always see. And knowing this content is going to help us love them better and be aware of ourselves a little bit. So I'm going to dive in. Let's do it. So how many, oh, and one thing I did want to note is 2 of my girls out of the triplets are identical. So the one that's on the end and then the one that's in the dress next to me, they're identical. However, they could not be wired more differently. So this is what really got me on my quest of, is it nature? Is it nurture? What is going on here? Why can I say one thing and it land totally different with one of my girls than the other? So I felt like I was my own little social experiment at home. Okay, so how many of you remember hearing this maybe when you were growing up? If you could only sit still for 5 minutes, or why do you wait till the last minute to do everything? Or you can't lighten up. Or why is everything always an argument? Do you remember maybe someone saying that to you when you were growing up and how it landed? Maybe you felt like you were misbehaving, even though you were like, I'm a curious kid, I have lots of questions. But now that you're a grown-up, you may find yourself saying these exact same things to the kids in your life, whether they're your own kids, whether they're nieces and nephews, whether you're a coach on a ball field. Oftentimes, we repeat what has been said to us through the years. And what we have found in a lot of the research that we've done with this is what makes communicating with kids so difficult is that one approach doesn't fit all. And if you grew up like me at all, my mom was like, it's fair, everything's fair. She treated all of us the exact same. And what we've kind of learned now as research has developed is maybe that's not always the best approach. Maybe you need to really focus on how the wiring of this particular child is and parent towards them, or communicate towards them. And so the temperament is really what determines a child's interests, behaviors, and tendencies. It's what also determines your interests, behaviors, and tendencies. So as much as we're going to be talking right now about, an adult and a child and how that temperament and wiring interacts, this afternoon we're going to talk about you and how your temperament interacts with other people. And that plays a part. So knowing your temperament and that of who you're talking to really is a game changer, whether it's an adult you're talking to, a colleague, a spouse. But really, our words land so differently when they're our children. We're shaping their thoughts and their emotions and their future, and so it feels like a heavy weight to carry. And this content has really provided a cheat sheet for me. And don't get me wrong, just because I'm up here teaching this and have been involved in this since 2012, I am definitely not perfect. And I'm going to share plenty of stories of how I have messed this up, because sometimes I think the stories of how I did mess it up are more helpful than when I got it right. So this is the main temperament chart that we're talking about. And this goes back over 2,000 years ago. Hippocrates had done a study of human traits and behavior and categorized people into 4 different categories. So if you've done any type of temperament assessment or personality assessment, chances are this is the research that is shaping that. And so if you are familiar with the Right Path or Myers-Briggs or Berkman, what was one we were just talking about last night? I think 16 personalities. There's lots of these out there, and the goal is that they don't compete with each other, but it adds another layer of information for you to know about how to love people that are around you. So these are the Greek names that we have. The yellows are the sanguines, the reds are the cholerics, the blues are the melancholics, and the greens are the phlegmatics. And that's a mouthful. So we're going to pretty much talk colors. They were paired with colors years ago. There is a fairly newer temperament assessment that someone did, still based on this research, but they changed up the colors. So I was just at a training 2 weeks ago in Minnesota, and people were very confused. So if you just kind of focus not necessarily on the color, because we're not trying to put you in a box necessarily, but we're just trying to show that each temperament has tendencies. So if you have done other assessments and you're like, no, I was purple somewhere else, you very well might be a different color here, but most of them have this same color. Disc is another one that carries colors with it, and so this will kind of go along on that way. So what is temperament? What are the basic foundations? The first one is the top 2 are extroverts and the bottom 2 are introverts. And I feel like that's kind of been a buzzword around lately. Like everybody's like, oh, extrovert, introvert. And now there's like an omnivert, where you're kind of in the middle and different things like that. But for this training, for our intents and purposes, what we're saying is an extrovert, their thoughts, feelings, and emotions go outward, okay? So they're the ones that are going to, they are definitely going to talk before thinking, okay? So I'm an extrovert. I'm gonna go ahead and just out myself, which you probably can figure that out. But that doesn't mean that their introverts don't want to present, right? It doesn't mean that you don't want to be on stage necessarily. It may not be your first forte. However, there's plenty of introverts that I know that are incredible communicators and that speak, because a lot of times it's one-way communication when you're presenting. A lot of comedians are extroverts, even though they're on stage. It's one-way communication. But for temperament-wise, we're talking about your thoughts, feelings, and emotions. So I've had a bad day, my thoughts, feelings, and emotions, I want to talk about it. I want to extrovert it. I want to, like, sometimes verbally vomit what's going on about my day to other people. Whereas if you're introverted, your thoughts, feelings, and emotions are going inward. You want to take a step back and you want to process it in your own head first. You want to maybe kind of decide what you're thinking and feeling first before you just kind of spit it out, okay? And so what I've learned about this, especially with kids, is sometimes if there's an extrovert kid and an introvert parent, the child is just extroverting all about their day and what happened, and the parent isn't able to just sit with them in their talking. They're either wanting to go into fix-it mode, right? Or they're wanting to kind of enter in to what's going on. And really the child may just be needing to extrovert their day and what's going on. So introverts, what I try to encourage you to do is allow them to extrovert and don't feel like you have to actually do anything about it. And where you might be a parent that is an extrovert, like me, and your child comes home and says nothing, has no words for you. And if you're an extrovert, you're like, oh my gosh, give me some words. I need to know what's going on. And we have to give them space. So both sides are giving each other space. One is giving space for someone to talk, and the other is going to give space for someone to not talk and to kind of process those thoughts and emotions. Because our introverts are going to always think before speaking. They're going to really want to process what they're saying or what they're thinking before they will say it out loud. And then we have our people-oriented, that are yellows and greens, are very people-oriented. They are inclined towards fostering relationships. That's what gets them up in the morning. That's what they're thinking about. If you're a people-oriented person, when you thought about this coming today, you're like, oh good, I hope I'm gonna see Sally, or I hope I'm gonna get to connect with Jim. Like, you're looking at the people. You're wanting to know, okay, how are the people feeling? What are they doing? How can I connect with them? How can I deepen and foster my relationship? Where on the flip side, the task-oriented people, which were a lot of the blues that were here early today, and making sure it was logistically set up and ready for everybody. It's not that they weren't thinking about the people, it's just first they're thinking about the task, the organization, making sure that things are checked off the list, okay? And so that's a little bit of how you can start to see how people start to kind of butt heads or show up differently, or you're not speaking the same language. Because our people-oriented things, especially our kids, they're saying things like, watch me, can my friend come? You can come to the park with us, or they're my new friend. Most of your extrovert kids don't even remember their friends' names, often, right? However, they are their new best friend, and they want to go. This was me as a kid all the time. I'm like, oh no, I have to invite her. What's her name? I don't know. I don't even remember. I'm so sorry. Okay, so the people-oriented kids, they are concerned with the who. The who is more important than the to-do, all day long. Whereas our task-oriented kids are saying things like, I can do it myself. I wasn't the one that broke the rules. Let me just finish one more thing. This is what we're going to play, okay? The task-oriented folks, they are more concerned with the to-do than the who. So you can see just from this particular slide, you can start to kind of see where people fall. And we have an opportunity for you to take the assessment, so it can actually tell you kind of the percentages of what you are or what your children are. However, this today, you don't even have to take the assessment, because hopefully by the time we're finished going through this, you're going to be able to kind of see who you are and maybe who some of the kids in your life are as we dive in through this. The one thing to note on this chart that might confuse people is the greens, because they are a people-oriented introvert. Kind of an oxymoron, isn't it? So these are the greens. These are people that are people-oriented. They're inclined towards fostering relationships, but they are going to be more quiet. They are not going to necessarily be the one that's going out there because they are more introverted. Their thoughts, feelings, and emotions are going to go inward first, even though they want to be around people. So we say our greens are the most adaptable bunch. Greens tend to be able to kind of flex into the other temperaments easier than some others. So if, as I'm going through this, you're feeling like, gosh, I kind of identify with all of them, you might be green. Or if you are thinking of a child that you interact with and you're like, gosh, I'm so confused by them. Sometimes they're this way, sometimes they're that way. They might be green. Because like I said, greens, if they're around a lot of yellows that we're going to talk about, strengths and weaknesses in just a few minutes, they can then kind of be yellow because they can be energetic and excited, but they also can flex and be more quiet. So just kind of keep that in mind. But this chart right here is really what explains why some kids keep their opinions and thoughts to themselves while others have way too much to say. Some get described as shy while others are labeled loud. Some prefer being with friends and others enjoy solitude. Some make decisions using facts and logic while others focus on feelings. So as we go through this, obviously to me, the best parents, the best leaders, the best people that interact with children are self-aware. So identifying kind of your temperament along the way, as well as the temperament of the children or the kids that you're coming in contact with, are really what's gonna make this come to life. So let's dive in and talk a little bit about each temperament, shall we? And we're gonna start with the yellows, because I'm yellow. And yellows always have to go first, okay? So our yellows, this is the first one. We are the extroverted, people-oriented folks, okay? We are quick to share our thoughts and feelings, and we care a lot about the people that are around us. We all have strengths and weaknesses, and some of the strengths of our yellows, and again, these are strengths of me when I was itty-bitty and now, but these are more geared towards kids right now. Full of energy and enthusiasm, expressive and animated, very curious, make friends easily. They're comfortable being the center of attention. What matters most to our yellows is really having fun and making sure everyone else around them is having fun too. And they want to make the most out of every moment. So it wouldn't surprise you to know they speak the language of people and fun. They will even use the words and talk about fun all the time. Some of the weaknesses of our yellows, they can be rambunctious and wiggly. They can be loud. They can have a short attention span. They can interrupt or answer for others, and they don't usually like doing things alone. They're very team-oriented. Even if it's cleaning their room, they would like partnership in that. They don't want to do anything alone. So a lot of times their yearbook caption will read, they're the most spirited or most likely to be social media famous because they're all about the people and the fun. So part of this that we did as part of the Grown Ups Guide to Kids Wiring is we interviewed 32 kids. And sometimes if you're like me, it's more visual, you're more visual, so you like to see it in action. And so Kathleen sat down with a bunch of kids that are yellow and asked them some questions. So take a look at this.
You can do this one.
Oh.
You can do this one. It's just simple little.
Nice. Let's
Maybe
do
like a.
Is that your day dance? What do you think some of your strengths are?
My strengths are like being fun and energetic. So much energy. Like sometimes I have too much energy for myself. I don't know what to do with it.
I fidget a lot with like my hands and my feet.
Just like jumping around, like.
Oh, like that? Oh.
Yes. I just love like being the crazy one and having fun with everyone.
Tell me about your friends.
Have a lot of them. They're nice to me, they play with me, they make me feel good.
Do you like to be alone?
No, not really. It bores me.
Yeah. So if you're thinking you're going to be alone, what do you do?
Go where people are.
Yeah. You're invited to a big party.
Okay.
Like a big party.
Okay.
You know no one.
Perfect.
Oh, that's perfect.
Perfect.
That was going to be, would you go?
Oh yeah.
Yeah? How would you do that though? Like you're walking in the door, what's the first thing you would do?
What's up?
What do you think about chores? Do you have any?
Yep.
What do you think?
Not so fun.
What's your least favorite thing to do?
I don't know, thinking. I don't think a lot.
Do you ever get in trouble for anything?
I don't think there's a day that goes by where I don't get in trouble.
Okay.
It's just, I'm loud.
Yeah.
Like, I even hear myself sometimes. Someone gave me a microphone one time.
Yeah.
And I was like, am I really that loud?
Mommy, come here for a sec.
You have a lot of energy. What's your least favorite thing to do?
We're going to do homework.
Yeah. What do you think when somebody says make a 3, 5, 10-year plan?
I laugh.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I don't even know what I'm doing today.
Why did the dog cross the road?
Why?
Because he had to go to the doctor.
Oh.
I want to dance with somebody. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah.
What did the triangle say to the circle?
What?
You're pointless.
If there was one thing you could change about yourself, what would it be?
Anything?
Yeah.
Anything.
Anything.
I think it'd be dope if I had like wings.
That's one of my triplets. And I was like hiding behind the booth as we were recording that, and I was like, oh, that's a good question. I can't wait to hear what she's gonna say. She wants to be more organized, more responsible. No, it'd be dope if she had wings. I was like, okay, I'm yellow, and that never even crossed my mind. So there we go. But you can just see how wiggly and animated and full of life that they are, okay? So we say our yellows have loud strengths and loud weaknesses. Okay, they can be your most magnetic friend or the source of drama in a friend group. And so it's important just to kind of help coach up your yellows to be aware of what their strengths and weaknesses are. All right, let's go on to our reds. These are our Colorworks. They are the extroverts who are very task-oriented. So some of their strengths, they are competitive, they make decisions easily, they're confident, disciplined, good at completing tasks, very productive, but they can be impatient, they can be bossy and argumentative, they can avoid apologizing, they can blame others, and they can be quick-tempered. So it may not surprise you that our reds speak the language of power and control. So even my little daughter who's red at 2 years old, I knew it. And someone said to me the other day, aren't all 2-year-olds red? And it's like, no, actually they're not. But they do all sometimes have that little red, toddler temper tantrum from time to time, but it does look different. And we're gonna talk a little bit about that in a bit. But our reds, they are known for having powerful strengths. They are authoritative and resourceful, but they can also be a little bit of a know-it-all and demanding. So take a look at this interview with our beautiful reds.
Everything have to be a competition? And I'm like, yes, and I'm going to win.
I like to be in charge and lead.
When do you like to be in charge and lead?
Always.
Always?
Yeah, I'm independent sometimes. And then, yeah, I like to be in charge.
I do not feel uncomfortable being in charge. It's something that if I see a need, I'm going to go and fix it.
Do you ever raise your voice?
I think I do a little bit.
Yeah, I can come off as bossy, but it gets the job done.
What would you say your best strengths are?
I'm a really hard worker. I strive to be like the best person I can be.
I feel like I can delegate. That is one thing that while I do have a tendency to take over, I at least give a person a chance before I do that. I can delegate it out, but then once they prove to me that they can't do it, that is when I start to take things back.
Okay. What do you think are some of the weaknesses that you struggle with?
Probably being bossy, impatient.
I'm not trying to be mean. I usually say that before I say something because now I'm known as the rude one. So before I say anything, I'm not trying to be mean, but this needs to happen, blah, 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 blah. I do have a tendency to be bossy, which in some cases I'm it works. Sometimes you just need that. But in others, they're like, okay, dial it back just a little bit.
Do you ever get in trouble?
Well, yeah. Sometimes I'll want to be the leader and a lot, and I'll just get really frustrated because things aren't going as I planned or something.
Do you think that you're misunderstood a lot?
Yeah.
Yeah? Because of what?
The way I carry myself, I guess.
Yeah.
I just want to get to the gist, I'd rather not talk about something for 2 hours. I'd rather say it in 7 words that like gets the point across.
Yeah. What do you think you want to do when you grow up?
Something with business.
Because do you want to be in charge of it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think you would be a good employer?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. If somebody is really annoying you.
I let them know.
Oh, do you?
Yes.
Yeah.
I let them know.
What would you say?
Stop!
Oh,
Yeah.
that was good.
Know any kids like that? Yes, sir.
So let me guess, the blonde was another one of your daughters?
You're right. The blonde is another one of my daughters. And the way she said that I'd rather say something in 7 words than talk about it all day. Her mother, God gave her a yellow mother, and I have a lot of words for her, and that she does not like that. And her identical twin is green, so she doesn't engage, or she likes more words as well. So yes, you're absolutely right. And it is so interesting how different they are, even though they look exactly the same. So you'll see the next one in a few slides. But our, our reds are so powerful, and they can be the most dynamic leader, or they can be the playground bully. And so often I have a strong red daughter, and I want to foster that leadership and teach her how to kind of channel it for good. And so that way she can understand what it's like to be under authority, so then she can then be in authority. And so that's one of the things that we try to coach the red boys and girls, but specifically the girls, because unfortunately society, as girls, if they're very strong red, sometimes that isn't as accepted, but a strong red young man is accepted. And so we're trying to kind of break that cultural barrier that you can't be a strong red young woman that is a leader, and it's how do you channel that for good, and how do you use that? Okay, so let's go on to our blues. Our blues, they're the introverts that are very task-oriented. It may not surprise you, they speak the language of perfection and order. They like perfection and order. So we are going to take a look at our blues. And what I want you to pay attention to, first we're going to talk about their strengths and weaknesses. But the strengths, they're very cautious, they're creative, they're compassionate, they're very logical, and they're problem solvers. Even as little tiny kids, you will see them start to solve their own problems. They're also the ones that sometimes they'll put themselves in timeout if they know they've done something wrong, okay? They're just very much rule followers. But they can come across moody, they can be judgmental, specifically judging their brothers and sisters if they're not following the rules. That can be a big problem for your blues. They can sometimes seem withdrawn, they can lack self-confidence, and they can be suspicious of people's motives or different situations that they're walking into. So as I show you the blues, you've obviously seen the yellows and how wiggly they are. They're sitting, they're engaged, they're leaning up at the top of their chair, wanting to engage, making eye contact. Then you have the reds, again, they're sitting very tall, they're just a little bit short with their, they say as few words as possible to be able to communicate what they want to say. And now we're going to look at the blues. And so I want you to just pay attention to their tone of voice, pay attention to their posture, and see if you can kind of see the difference as we walk through this.
Hold high expectations for myself.
Do you?
I'm very sensitive. I'm like a perfectionist.
Yeah.
I just kind of feel a little bad for myself. I like to be early rather than late. I want A's in all classes. I like to be safe than sorry. I don't like to mess up.
What happens when you do?
I can be kind of hard on myself.
Yeah. What do you think about like big crowds or noise or anything?
I'm not a big fan of noise.
Yeah.
I have a very high nervous system.
Okay.
I'm nervous about going to school, nervous about, usually I would just wake up and then get all stressed out.
What is your favorite thing to do?
Probably to read a book.
Really?
Yeah, I really like reading books. I read. I hold high expectations for myself.
Do you?
I'm very sensitive. I'm like a perfectionist.
Yeah.
I just kind of feel a little bad for myself. I like to be early rather than late. I want A's in all classes. I like to be safe than sorry. I don't like to mess up.
What happens when you do?
I can be kind of hard on myself.
Yeah. What do you think about like big crowds or noise or anything?
I'm not a big fan of noise.
Yeah.
I have a very high nervous system.
Okay.
I'm nervous about going to school, nervous about, usually I would just wake up and then get all stressed out.
What is your favorite thing to do?
Probably to read a book.
Really?
Yeah, I really like reading books. I read National Geographic.
You do? I bet you it gives you a lot of information.
I know the tallest building in the world.
What is it?
It's a Burj Khalifa.
I like the Harry Potter series. I read the whole series in a week.
Fishing, swimming, soccer, guitar, makeup.
Wow.
Just-
Fishing.
Yeah.
Yeah, what you
Just
thinking when you're fishing?
good thoughts, positive thoughts.
Yeah.
Just relaxing a bit and just wait until I catch something.
And you're good just waiting because you're
Yeah.
doing something you like, right? You seem kind of like a rule follower. Are you?
Yes.
Yeah. What if somebody's breaking any rule?
I think they should be following the rule,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not them and I can't make the decision for them.
Yeah. What do you think you want to do when you grow up?
Probably like an engineer.
Really?
Yeah, like I really like coming up with ideas and coming up with and building things and stuff.
What do you get in trouble for?
Not listening very much. I kind of, when I'm focused and zoned out on something, I don't listen at all.
Yeah.
Putting hands on my sister's school, not being quiet.
Really?
Yeah.
What are you doing not to be quiet? That surprises me.
I was just doing examples. I
Okay.
really do be quiet.
I just love her. I want to squish her out and take her home. But isn't it so interesting? You know, they're more reserved. They're sitting up. They're not making eye contact as much. They have a lot of detail that they're sharing. They want a lot of the information. And so what I love about our Blues is they have deep strengths and deep weaknesses. They can be your most compassionate friend, or they can be your toughest critic because they are perfectionists. They hold themselves to a very, very high standard. And one of the things I want is we're going to dive into this, which I'm glad we have so much time because we're going to start unpacking some things at our tables. But you might have the same example that a child isn't paying attention, okay? But it's the motive of why they're not paying attention that is going to help you determine their temperament. So you heard one of the young men in here say, oh, what does he get in trouble for? And he said, not paying attention. And he followed that up with, because I'm so focused on what I am doing. So a Blue is probably going to be putting together their Legos or doing something, and they're so zoned in and focused, they are missing what's going on around them. Now, you might have a yellow child, or you might be a parent of a yellow and say, oh my gosh, they never pay attention. They don't listen to me. Well, that doesn't mean they're blue. It means they're yellow and they're not listening to you. Why do we think they're probably not listening to you? They're probably talking, right? They're probably, distracted by something else, so they're not listening to you. Whereas you might have a red child that the same complaint, they're not listening to me, but it may be for another reason, as because they want to be in charge and they want to tell you what to do, not have you tell them what to do. So part of what we're going to do throughout our time here is, give examples of all the kids, but I really want you to peel it back a little bit more, and we want to go to what is the motivation behind what you're experiencing, because that's going to be more about their temperament versus just the behavior you're getting. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that as we continue. But let's move on to our lovely greens. Our greens are the people-oriented introverts, okay? They are so kind, and we're going to talk through their strengths. They are very calm, they're agreeable and accommodating, they're very patient, they're great team players, and they're very generous and willing to share all the time. Someone wants to borrow their things, someone wants to take their seat, they give it up. They are very generous. Some of their weaknesses are they can be indecisive, they can be unexpressive and unenthusiastic at times, they can be stubborn, they can be messy, and they can be sarcastic. Our greens speak the language of calm and harmony. They are just very, very steady. And again, so you've seen the yellows, the wiggly yellows in the video. Now you've seen the reds, the very confident, sit straight reds. You've seen the blues, a little bit quieter, a little bit, they don't take up quite as much space. And now take a look at our very calm, chill greens.
So your perfect day, what does it look like?
Doing nothing.
Well, I would just watch TV. I would invite a friend over.
Tell me your absolute favorite thing to do. Read.
I like getting alone time. Just every time to self-reflect.
What's the least favorite thing to do? What do you not want to do?
Most of the time, just get out of bed.
Interesting.
I mean, I don't like school.
Okay. What stresses you out?
usually like large groups of people.
I do not really like that much noise. So like keep it quiet.
I enjoy smaller like one-on-one interactions, but when I'm with a lot of people, I don't find it as pleasing.
What would you say some of your best strengths are?
Sleeping,
Yeah.
eating all the food,
Probably bringing like peace and joy to people.
easy going, sometimes.
What are some of your weaknesses?
My mom says that I'm very stubborn.
Lazy.
Yeah.
I frequently have massive stack of laundry outside my room.
And then like laziness, or not laziness, just not the urgency to get anything done.
Okay.
Or if there's like chores and I have to like unload the dishwasher, like I will not be the first one on it.
And what are they saying to you?
Put away your laundry. Usually my mom is like, you've got all this laundry, it's been here for 2 weeks, go put it away. I'm like, I just like to walk out in the morning and be like, wear this, great, throw it on.
Because it's so convenient right there, all clean and
Just
full.
walk out, it's right there.
You don't even have to go. That's great.
Sound like anyone you know or are raising, maybe? Yes? And yes, that's my other daughter that's in there that says my mom says that she doesn't she's stubborn. And I love how she said she thinks I'm lazy. Well, not lazy, but I just don't have the urgency to get anything done, right? Big difference there. Our greens, though, they're so kind and peaceful. They're really the easiest people to be around. And they will say, I mean, they have very peaceful strengths and peaceful weaknesses. So they will be one of your kindest friends, or they will be someone that's really hard to get moving, because sometimes it's just getting them going that matters. So you can kind of see how that looks now with the kids, you know, that we've given you some examples. So one of the things that I'll say is kids truly are their most authentic selves, which I love. And why that is, it's because the world hasn't told them not to be yet. So us as adults, we kind of have some baggage that we've picked up in business and in relationships and have gotten hard feedback along the way. And obviously that does happen to kids, but ultimately they show up when I do this training for schools, like they show up 100% themselves and authentic. And it's like, how do we channel that for good? Because obviously a yellow child needs to be able to sit still sometimes and pay attention to directions. And a red child needs to be able to take direction and realize they're not in charge. A green has to sometimes put away their laundry, even though they may not want to. And a blue child might have to be more flexible than they're willing to do if they've already had a perfect plan. So we're going to talk about that as our morning continues. But before we do, I would love for you guys to spend about 10 minutes at your table. And I would love for you to talk through, and you have a handout that has some of this information on it that you can reference. It has some of the lists of strengths and weaknesses. Which temperament is the hardest for you to connect with in kids? And why do you think this could be? And then when you think of the kids in your life, which temperament do you feel the most called to understand better? So if you guys could take about 10 minutes and discuss that, and I'm walking around, so if you have something specific or questions, we can absolutely have that dialogue, and then we'll pick back up part 2 of our presentation, okay? Okay. Well, that's one of the things we're going to talk about next is one of my favorite parts, because it really talks about what each temperament needs. So several of you had mentioned it, but you have a dominant and a secondary. So if you're resonating with 2 of these, that's very common. And you may, based on how you were made, maybe you resonate with 3 of them, but usually you have a dominant and a secondary, and you can interchange those. So a lot of times people will say, well, I'm this way at home and I'm this way at work. That isn't usually how it goes. However, I will tell you, I became a single mom when my triplets were 13 and my youngest was 7, and I am a yellow-red, but they will tell you I was a red mom. And it's because I had to be. Because unfortunately I was doing it by myself, and unfortunately my husband wasn't in recovery, so wasn't even a co-parent. So I had to use the skills of a red to lead my household. Now that they're older, they're 21, and we're about to go, together for Thanksgiving, and I'm like trying to plan the fun, and they're seeing more of my yellow come out, but unfortunately it wasn't really possible when I was growing up. Now, people at work saw my yellow, and I could be more yellow there, but it isn't like I all of a sudden just became blue. Does that make sense? Like I interchanged my dominant and my secondary, and so that is typical. So if what's required of you, sometimes you bring to the table. And I do a lot of team trainings and work with C-level suite executives, And oftentimes we'll see somebody that's trying to force themselves into a certain role that it really isn't their gifting. And so it's not that every color can be a leader, but it's what that looks like. You know, it's gonna look different for each person. And so we want you to be the most authentically you, and show up that way like kids do, and, you know. And then I was talking to this gentleman in the back, and one of the things that I have absolutely seen is the more spiritually mature we are, the more self-aware we are, the more emotionally intelligent we are, those edges that are sharp in our temperament tend to start to soften. And so I met someone not too long ago, and he was just the kindest, most generous man, and he was leading these volunteers. And I said, "What temperament are you, green, Bruce?" And he was like, "Oh no, I am red." And I'm like, "Really?" It surprised me. And he's like, "Jesus has done a number on me, let me tell you." And so I do feel like there are areas that we get softened based on how we grow and the opportunity that we use to be able to lean into our strengths and kind of let the Lord and circumstances and other people help soften some of our edges. So. Okay, so let's go on to this next section because this is really important that we're going to share. So the child's temperament has everything to do with your biggest tensions at school or at home or on the ball field. That's what we end up bumping into. And I'm going to share the rest of our time together 3 big ideas that we're going to talk through. And so let's go back to the first slides that I started sharing. You know, if only you could sit still for 5 minutes, or why do you wait to the last minute to do everything? He just can't sit still. Why is everything always an argument? So often these things become issues because of one word, and it's because we as parents or teachers or coaches or grandparents, or I heard someone say a great-grandparent, it's because we have expectations. We expect them to show up in a way that we would show up, or in the way that their brother might have shown up. And so we want to talk about what those expectations are. So when you see, you know, if you could only sit still for 5 minutes, we expect a child to sit still when asked. Why do you wait to the last minute to do everything? We expect a teenager to oftentimes be more productive. He just can't lighten up. We expect a child to emote joy occasionally. Why is everything always an argument? We expect our kids to not argue with adults. Are there any red adults in here? Or were you ever shy about sharing your opinion with an adult? Maybe. You know, usually whether they're little or older, we show up in the same way. So the big idea number 1 is that we really want the child's wiring it just must inform our expectations of them. So rather than expecting a child to change to fit our expectations, we are going to consider the child and their wiring first. Doesn't mean they get to misbehave, so we're going to be talking about that. But we are going to leave space for your yellow child in the back to be yellow. We're not going to expect him to show up. It was your daughter or your son? Daughter. We're not going to expect her to show up other than yellow. We're going to actually be prepared for that. So when you look at this student is a yellow. She's easily distracted, and therefore she is going to struggle to pay attention in class. This child is red. She is wired to speak her mind, even if the teacher hasn't called on her yet. This child is blue. He is not going to be comfortable ad-libbing a speech to an auditorium full of peers. This team captain is green. He is not going to be comfortable addressing the conflict in front of the team. So how do we align our expectations with our child's wiring? The key is understanding the concept of innate needs. So this is truly what changed my life. And it changed my household, it changed how I led a team at my church, it's changed how I communicate with everyone, and I do not get this right all the time, at all, which I'm going to be sharing. However, if I can pause and really pay attention to the needs of the person or the child that I'm talking to, it immediately makes a difference. So we're going to talk through it because each of these temperaments has 4 needs. And these needs are not just nice to-dos, these are like food and water. You need these things in order to function as God has designed you to function as a human being on this earth. And you have been trying to fill these needs since you came into the world. And so you have a choice. You can fill these needs with a strength, or you can fill these needs with a weakness. And we have other people in our lives that can help fill these needs for us. If you're married, you have a spouse. If you're a child, you have parents. If you're a parent, you have children. And I encourage you, there's a ton of free resources that I'm going to share with you. When I first learned this and bringing this into my house and allowing my girls to understand their siblings, like this young lady in the front was just talking about her different siblings and how her parents are wired, it changes the barometer in the household, because now, even if that annoying brother is telling you what to do and he's younger than you, you can just take a quick second and think, he's wired red. He is wired to be very decisive and delegate and tell me what to do, and I don't like it, but I realize this is how he's wired. So I'm gonna respond in a way that is gonna help our relationship instead of just squash the relationship. So we're gonna go through each of these needs. Like I said, the handout that you have on your table, they're on the back, but I want to spend some time talking about each of them, and I want to define them for you. And this is a great exercise to do after this with your family, and have them define the needs. If you can determine what each family member is, sit down over dinner, a few nights over the next month, or the holidays are a great time, and ask if you know one of your children is yellow as we go through these needs. Ask them, what does this need mean to you specifically? Because what Kathleen did and what our team did is we took years of research and conversations that she's had and that we've had, and we are defining these, but not every definition is going to be spot on for your particular color or temperament, and so we want you to continue the conversation. So let's start with our yellows again, because the yellows, we always want to be first. So we're gonna go. Okay, so our yellows, what do they need? Number one is approval. This is being liked for who they are without needing to change. So my yellow daughter, who you saw, thought it would be dope if she had wings, okay? We would be sitting at the dinner table, and she would be telling stories, and we had a bench, and she'd have one foot on the bench, like this, because it's dinner, but she's so excited and animated. This is how she's telling the story at dinner. And her blue sister would be like, why do you have to be so obnoxious? Can you just sit down and tell your story? Please. And you would see my yellow daughter, McKenna, who has a big sparkle in her eye, the sparkle would just start to dim. And then she'd sit down, and she'd pull it in normal, and she would not be nearly as excited to tell her story. So does it matter that she needed to get up? The more that my daughter, didn't like it, understood this is how God made her, this is how she's wired. Now, they're older obviously, but now it's almost entertaining. Addie sits back and is like, all right, McKenna, let's go. Let's hear your story. And you can see the life come in to McKenna's eyes again. So what does this look like? This doesn't mean that they get to interrupt all the time, but it may mean, hey, Susie, I am so excited to hear your story. I want to hear it, but let's talk about it after dinner when we're in the living room. Or let's go outside and run around and talk about it, okay? So it just means you're channeling that energy and that need for approval into a place that would fit the situation that is in front of them. Number two is acceptance. This is being invited and included. FOMO is real for yellows. The fear of missing out, okay? This is so hard for yellows. If you have a yellow child, they probably want to invite the entire class to their birthday party. And if you're not a yellow, you don't understand this. You're like, no, we can't afford that. We don't want to do that. You don't even like Ella. They don't care. They want to be invited and included, so they want to invite and include everybody to them. And with this day and age, with the social media, they know in 1 nanosecond if they have not been invited and included, and they are devastated. So if you're not yellow, this isn't a need of yours, you might have a tendency to say, McKenna, who cares? You don't even like Ella. You don't need to go to that party. Don't worry about it. That doesn't help my daughter McKenna. She's sad. She doesn't like her, but she likes a lot of the other people that are going to be there, and she has a deep fear of missing out, so me squashing that for her isn't helpful. Instead, me recognizing that her need for acceptance and she wasn't accepted or invited and included, I could say, gosh, that must really stink. Why don't you and I go get Brewster's or an ice cream cone at somewhere? Try to help bring her spirits up, because we don't want to squash. This is how she is wired. This is a need of hers. We don't get to decide if it's a good need or a bad need. It's a need, okay? Next up is attention, having your full focus, especially eye contact. If you've had those children that are like, Mommy, Daddy, Grandpa, Nana, whatever, watch me, watch me, watch me, watch me, watch me. And you're like, oh my gosh, I am so tired. This is the 25th worst cartwheel in the world. I have to cook dinner. They might be yellow because they really want your attention. They want your eye contact. So what that means is that if you're cooking dinner and your little yellow, hops on in and is like, Mommy, please, I want you to see this. Come watch, watch, watch. If you can pause for 1 second, turn around, get eye level with them and make that eye contact and say, hey, Jimmy, I cannot wait to see whatever it is, your Lego set, even though that's probably your blue child. Mommy needs to finish cooking so I don't burn the noodles, but when I'm done, I'm gonna come see it. If you just pause to make eye contact with them, usually they will take a beat and they won't keep pulling on you and, please, Mommy, 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 Daddy, 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 Grandpa. They just need to know that you see them. And yellows, this is really important. All of us, if you've done some psychotrauma stuff like I have done, we all come into the world looking for someone looking for us. And yellows, this is like the biggest thing for them. They want to make sure that they are seen, and eye contact really matters. And it is hard. And I'll tell you, because my daughter McKenna, who is very yellow, she was in sports. She was an athlete all the time. And they always start high school sports like at 3:30, like 4 o'clock was the game. Well, I was still working. So I would leave work early. I'm trying to finish up work. I'm at the game. And I would need to finish up some emails. And she'd be on the basketball court doing stuff. And when she was on the bench, I would check my email. Or I would finish up my day. And one day we got in the car and we were driving home afterwards and she kind of had an attitude. Imagine that, 15 attitude. And I said, you played great today. And she goes, did you even watch? And I was like, yeah, hello, I watched the whole game. And she goes, well, every time I looked up, you were on your phone. Well, what I realized is the only time that she could see me, had a moment to watch me, was when she was on the bench. So when I had to go on my phone to finish up my day, I would wait till she was on the bench, but when she was on the bench, she's now looking in the stands to see, am I seeing her? And it looked like I was on my phone. It crushed her. But it was a great reminder for me to be like, okay, I need, the perception of this is that she needs to know I am fully in tune with her. So, I hated it, but a couple times when I had to return an email, I would wait till she was on the court. Because I did not want her to feel that she was not getting this need met from me. Make sense? Okay. Next up, affection. Being noticed or acknowledged. This is not every yellow child wants warm hugs, but a lot of us do. We don't mind the physical touch. We like, things. My sweet McKenna will just plop next to me and flop over and want me to scratch her back. There's just something about that. So if you're not yellow and you're not a physical touch person, but you have a child that is, you getting out of your own way to love them in the way that they want to be loved, to tickle their back, scratch their head, whatever it is, give them a hug. This really matters to them, and this is how you can fill their needs. So this is where we really want to, whoever we're interacting with, the child that's in front of us, how do we take away our glasses, and put on the glasses of the person that's in front of us. So that way it's easier for me with my yellow child because I'm yellow, so I get it. This is going to be harder as I go along, and you'll see because it doesn't come intuitive. And if you're not yellow, these needs do not come intuitive. And sometimes, if you're honest, the needs of a child that has this is exhausting for you. That's hard. But that is something that you can take to the Lord and say, give me patience. Give me extra energy. Give me the know-how to be able to fill this for them, and having a conversation with your yellow child. Even a little 3-year-old, you can start to have these conversations and see what is it that they respond to. Because if you're in between a couple needs, whichever one of these is speaking to you the most, you can put little check marks by, and oftentimes you'll start to determine, yeah, I think this is what my needs are, or this is what my child's needs are. And it's just by having conversations. Make sense? All right. Any thoughts? Any yellows, adults in the room that are like, oh yeah, I know that. That was me growing up, and maybe even me now. Yes, thank you. Okay, let's go on to our red kids, shall we? Our reds need loyalty, being prioritized and knowing you had their back. My daughter Addie, who you saw in the video, it's really hard to recover if a friend talks behind her back. It is almost impossible for that to happen. And if it's one of her sisters, eek, it's a really hard thing to get over. And so reds really need to know that there's loyalty there. And if there's anything that's going on, you're going to talk to them directly. You're not going to embarrass them in front of others, especially their friends. That's a big no-no. So you'll get, if like you were to embarrass your red brother in front of red friends, it's going to take it to a Mach 10 in how he responds. And so pulling them aside, kind of, redirecting them quietly is what is the most loving to them. And that is also considered loyal to them. Because once you've been disloyal, it does make it hard to rebound often with reds. Okay, second is sense of control. This is everyone pulling their weight and following the plan. This is sense of control. Before we end, I'm going to tell you a story about sense of control with my red daughter. But this is one of those things, sometimes people mistake the reds thinking they want to be in charge of everything, and actually that's not true. But red kids specifically want to make sure that you do what you say you are going to do. So if you're a parent and you say you are going to go to the game, you go to the game. If you can't go to the game, you let them know ahead of time that you are now unable to go to the game. If you say you're going to show up and do something, you do it. If you say you're going to stop and get them a poster board for their project at school, make sure you do it, because they are looking for you to do what you said you were going to do. Now, they understand things happen. Emergencies happen, work happens. If something like that happens and disrupts the plan, letting them know ahead of time is what is going to cause them a lot of comfort. It not being surprised. Hey, Tex, I'm so sorry, my plan was to go by the Dollar Tree and get the poster. I didn't have time. We're going to do it once I pick you up from school. No problem. But if they get in the car and they think you're going to have it and you don't, that's when you start to see them get really frustrated, okay? All right. Next up is appreciation, being valued for their unique strengths. This is about affirming who they are, okay? This is really more about their character, not just the things they accomplish. Because the second one, or the last one here, is credit for work, which is being valued for their contributions. So credit for work usually is pretty easy for reds because they get a lot of things done. Even kids, they can get a lot of things done. They get their chores done, they do what they say they're going to do, they follow through on things. They might be a little bossy doing it, but they're going to get it done. Whereas the appreciation is more about their character. So were they brave? Were they kind? Were they compassionate? Like, what did that look like? And so reds, really, that's a deficit for them, is really having someone speak into their character. Did they stand up for a friend? What is it about some of those traits that you can speak into that isn't just about what they accomplish? That's really important for the reds, to know that they're valued for those things. So, do you guys know some red kids that you think this might speak to? If you were to able to speak into this? And again, if you're not red, you don't really understand or need. I don't care if someone tells me that I'm a great person or I was really brave. I don't need that. You don't, because you're not red. And oftentimes reds will brush it off. Like when I go to my red and I'm like, oh my gosh, Addie, you were incredibly brave in this situation. I'm so proud of you, you blah, blah, blah. She'll be like, oh mom, it was like nothing. You know, she doesn't necessarily want the attention like my yellow would, but it speaks to her heart and to her soul, and she'll sometimes brush it off, but it's one of those things. It's like, no, 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 yes, 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 no, 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 yes, yes, yes. And so don't stop doing it just because they seem like they don't want you to do it. However, it is important to know the type of appreciation they want. You know, if they have a dominant red and a secondary yellow, they might be okay with verbal public appreciation, but oftentimes reds would much prefer a handwritten note or a text or something that's more private with appreciation versus something that might embarrass them or put too much attention on them, specifically if they're more red-blue than red-yellow. So it's important to kind of ask your red kids in your life, what does that mean to you? What could it mean to you? How could I love you better in those areas? All right, ready to go on to our blues? Let's go. Number 1, safety. Being able to trust their surroundings and relationships. This is huge for blues. It was funny because you said your blue son was making this Lego museum, right? And the first thing he said, one rule, no guns. Safety is by far a huge need for blues. They want to make sure, and if I am so not wired with any percentage of blue, I'm like, la-di-doo, I don't even pay attention to my surroundings, right? My blue daughter is the one checking in with me. Did you get there? Did she pick you up? Okay, did you have to wait? Is the hotel safe? Like, she is concerned, and I'm like, I don't even pay attention. Sometimes I don't even know what city I'm in while I'm traveling. And she is like losing her mind about it. So safety is super important. And this was such an aha moment for me when I was first learning this material when they were younger, because I didn't know it until they were about 7. And when they were little, 3 years old, I just had them. I'm a yellow mom, I was working, and I needed friends and a break, and so we would go to a park. We would meet my friends at the park. And I'm like, praise the Lord, I'm gonna have an hour to talk to adults, and the kids are just gonna go play, like, go, skedaddle. And my yellow child would run off and go on the swing set and play, and my green child would run off and go play, and my blue child would be right here, stuck to my leg, gripped to my leg. And I'm like, Addie, go play. Like, go, 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 go. I'm shaking her off my leg, go play. And I now know she's looking at me thinking, why do you not want me to be next to you? Like, this playground isn't safe. Do you see those, monkey bars? There's rust on those monkey bars. That is not safe, right? This is what's going through her little 4-year-old mind. And then when it doesn't work for me to try to get her to go play, I'm like, go meet a friend. There's all these kids, go make a friend. Now I know she's looking at me like, how are you my mother? Have you not heard of stranger danger? I should not go and meet friends. This is not safe. I should not go do this. But that was my yellow wiring trying to get the time I wanted with my friends. And she was not having it. She was still stuck to my leg. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is killing me. After really understanding this, and I'm gonna oversimplify it, but what I realized is I am the one, as her mother, that can help her feel safe. So what that means is when we go to the playground to meet some friends that I want to talk to, if I took 10 minutes and walked her through the playground, helped her through the monkey bars, we saw some kids going down the slide and they were doing like a train, and I'm like, hey kids, that looks fun and I do that, but this little girl wants to follow the rules one at a time down the slide, so don't get on the back of her when she goes down the slide. Okay, great, thanks. Now we go and do the other things, we walk around. Then I meet some other of the kids, and I'm like, hi, what's your name, little girl? Oh, you're Susie. Susie, meet Addie. Addie, meet Susie. Where's your mom, Susie? Hi, I'm Jenny. Nice, we live in the neighborhood. I am now creating a little bit of safety, right, for her, and then she would start to go and play. Like I said, I'm oversimplifying it. However, if I could just take 10 minutes to hone into the importance of safety of my little girl, it would then give me the time and space that I wanted with my friend, and my kids would be going to play. So it's just stopping and looking at what that looks like through their lens. My other two, they didn't need that at all. So it's not like it's a one parenting for across all the board. It was really having to tailor certain parenting things to the certain kids' needs, which with 4 kids, and they all have different temperaments, was overwhelming. Very much so. However, it made a huge difference in how they responded. Okay, sensitivity. This is being understood. You don't have to agree with them. They just want you to understand where they're coming from. This is, my Blue would come in and just be talking all about how horrible her chemistry teacher was. She's terrible, everybody hates her, blah, blah, blah. You know, she's gonna have to give like a 50% curve because everybody fails, and why did the school even have her in here teaching, and blah. I mean, it was just whatever. And as a yellow, I'm like upbeat, positive, and this is like, wah, wah, down. But what I realized is she just needs to vent. She's already processed all the stuff in her head, okay? And now this is the information that she wants to share. And so I just want to go, hey, tell me more. Why do you think that is? Like, I just want to let her vent, and that way I don't have to agree with her. She just wants me to understand where she's coming from, which is easy to do as long as I don't try to then go into fix-it mode and telling her what she should do different or how she could get her grade up. That's going to backfire. And so letting them be understood and validating it. I could see how that would frustrate you. I could see how that makes you concerned about your grade, and now, and Blues are so deep, she's already thinking she's not going to get into college now because she's, you know, going to maybe get a C on this test as a sophomore. So it's like letting her kind of play that out and just validate her concerns, and then at the end, I'm still yellow, I can offer a little bit of hope, like, I'm sure it's going to be okay. And then it'll work out. Okay, one thing I do want to say about this is about sensitivity, is that culture can be shaming for boys that are blue, that are very sensitive, and that breaks my heart. So if you have a little boy in your life, a son, a nephew, you know, a grandson, and he's blue, we want to let that little boy feel like he can embrace his God-given wiring, and it's okay for him to be sensitive. It's okay that he gets his feelings hurt. It's okay that he might cry. We want to be able to show that you can still be a man and be accepted, and this is how God made you, and that is okay. And so I hope with how culture has evolved, I'm seeing this happen and be approached much, much better nowadays. However, I did want to make that comment because unfortunately that is one of the things that now when I meet older men and they're blue, they think of things in their childhood, and it's some of those words about suck it up, don't cry, baby, some of those things that then they stick with those then, and they still are trying to hold it together. And there is nothing more attractive that I have seen than a man that can understand and validate and share his emotions. And so we want to help our young men and boys in the world know how to do that and do that well. Okay, support. This is being offered or provided help. Again, this is something that they just want you to come along, and oftentimes they won't want your help because they're perfectionists. Excuse me. Thank you. However, you offering help, or you at least recognizing that they're stressed out, they have a lot going on, they have sports activities, they have school activities, it's important that they feel like you're understanding where they're coming from and that you offer help. Hey, you've got so much going on, let me do this piece for you. Let me stop and make sure we've got all the stuff to make the rocket ship, or whatever it is. They would very much value that. And then last but not least is space and silence. This is having time to decompress, process, or think. Giving your blues a few minutes of downtime before kind of making them go to the next activity or the next thing is really something that they need. It's not that they're lazy, it's not that they don't want to get up and go. They were wired to take a beat. And so when you have them on a rotating activity list, you are not going to get the best from your blues. They like to be able to have a minute between activities and functions, and that's what's going to bring out the best in them. So if you have a day that is going to be go, 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 prepping them for it ahead of time and acknowledging this isn't ideal is going to help them be able to rally, but they're not really going to be able to rally indefinitely. So when you have multiple kids going in a lot of different directions, sometimes it's nice to figure out what does this look like for the blue to be able to stay home and not run around. Can they stay at a neighbor's house, or can they, are they old enough to do that? Because they get really worn down by the go, 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 and you will feel it in their moods and how they're sluggish. So I think being able to almost look at the week ahead and carve out what that looks like for your blue children is going to be important so that they kind of see the pockets of reprieve that are coming amongst busy days. All right, so does this resonate with some of you that are blue yourself and maybe remember growing up, or you have a blue child or grandchild? So this is what you can see. And think of Thanksgiving. Let's say that you have a blue nephew or a blue grandson, and everybody's now staying at their house, and you're going to stay in their room, and they're now going to be in someone else's room. This does not mean that the blue child isn't happy to see you. It just means they've been completely disrupted, and they're going to have to kind of ruffle out some of those feelings for a moment. Because a yellow would be like, oh yay, slumber party in the basement, I can't wait to do that. Whereas the blue is going to be like, Grandpa are sleeping in my room? Great. Now I gotta go to the basement, you know? And so, but this is where we have the expectation. If you can take off your glasses and put on their glasses, now you can begin to see where they're coming from, and you're not as put off or concerned, and it's less about you and it's more about them, what they need. Okay, let's go to our greens. Our greens, harmony. Everyone getting along, or everything going smoothly. Our greens, they want to avoid disagreements, even if they're not part of them. They do not like disagreements at all. They don't even like to witness the arguing around them. It just makes their, ugh. So if there's drama in the house, they know it and they feel it. I thought that I was doing a really stellar job of keeping everything together when things started to go really south with my husband and his addiction and our marriage. And my green daughter, she carried it all on her shoulders. And she does a good job because she doesn't want anyone else to think that she's carrying it. So you've got to check in with your greens and make sure they're doing okay, because they, on the outside, really seem like they're harmonious and everything's going good, but it is really hard for them if there's tension. I call them the barometer of a situation. They can kind of walk into something and immediately tell you where there is tension. Feeling of worth, this is being valued for their unique strengths. Our greens, they want to feel valued and seen and not forgotten. They want to know that they're missed when they're not there, and that things are better when they are there. And oftentimes they don't even realize the value that they bring, which is harmony and peace and kindness, until they're not there. When my green daughter is around, our family just operates a little bit better. When she doesn't come home for the weekend from college or whatever, and it's just all the rest of us with no green, it's a little bumpier. I gotta be honest. And so recognizing that and valuing that in the greens is really important. Lack of stress. This is an absence of conflict and combative words. Just as I was leaving, this was a little while ago, and I was going to be just for the day, gone for a training, and my daughter, whose green was home, she was sitting on the couch. I said, hey Riley, before I get home, could you empty the dishwasher and clean up the kitchen? And she pops up from the couch, she's like, why are you yelling at me? I'm like, I'm not yelling at you. But what I realized is just the direct request to her was firm. Like when I send her a text with punctuation, she'll be like, are you mad at me? And it's just that, because she is so steady. So if I said, okay, redo, sorry. I'm like, hey, Rob, would you mind emptying the dishwasher? It would mean so much to me, because I just want to come home and be able to cook dinner right away. Thank you, I love you, bye. And I walk out, she'll do it in a heartbeat. The reason why Riley is going to get up and empty the dishwasher, probably a few minutes before I get home, is because she is people-oriented and she loves me. That is the motivation. It is not to get the task done. If I would have asked my red daughter, Addie, to empty the dishwasher, she would have said, yes, how much are you going to pay me? That's the difference. She's not necessarily looking for the connection, she's looking for credit for the work and for the task and some sort of monetary value in that. So, I was doing this training, I do it a lot of times right before school starts, and we did a big superintendent whole district in Texas. And what was so funny about this is one of the teachers said, she was like, she was a red teacher, and she came up and she goes, they each were asked to pick one thing they were going to work on for the first few months of school, just one thing. And she said, I am going to start telling my students, like, hey, today we get to do math. It's going to be so great. Could you guys open to page 43? And I was like, oh, that sounds good. How do you normally do it? She was, normally I'm frustrated because they're not listening to me, and I'm like, hey kids, pay attention, it's math, page 43, open to page 43. And I was like, ooh, and literally she sent me an email like 6 weeks ago, and she was like, it's working. Like, I am getting a better response from my students because of just slightly changing the tone and adding in a few more words of asking them to turn to what page we're going to do in math. And so that's being helpful to the whole class. But specifically, I know it's sitting well with her greens. The yellows probably think she's a little more fun, right? The reds probably just appreciate the direction, and the same with the blues. Like, it doesn't matter, there's extra words, they still get the detail that they need in that. Okay, so last but not least is respect, being asked for their thoughts or opinions. Greens have great ideas and they will share them, but oftentimes Greens' favorite phrase is, oh, I don't care, it doesn't matter, whatever you want to do. And if you're not green, sometimes that frustrates you, right? If you're honest, like, just make a decision. Let's just make a decision. Where do you want to go to eat? We're going fast food, Chick-fil-A, Wendy's. Oh, I don't know, I don't care. That's just how they're wired. Oftentimes they don't care. The problem is that Greens want you to ask, and oftentimes they need to be reminded of what they've liked in the past in order for them to remember. So having triplets, being divorced, knowing their dad is involved, I was like, knew they were going to be in therapy and have some problems at some point in their life, and them sharing a birthday wasn't going to be one of them. So I was going to do separate birthday parties, and we were going to do separate night out dinners. That's what I was going to do, killing myself to get it done. My red daughter always picked a place, no problem. Yellow daughter always wanted to be a friend, picked a place, no problem. My greens, like, it doesn't matter. We can go wherever. We don't even need to go out. We've already been out twice this month. You know, I'm like, no, I don't want you to be in therapy because you didn't get a night out on your birthday. We need to go to dinner. And so what I realized is if I could remind her of places that we have been that she had liked, like, hey, remember when we went to that bocce place and they did the like fire with the onion and then they threw a shrimp at you? That was fun. What about that? She'd be like, oh yeah, we could do hibachi, that'd be fun. Or if I'd remind her of the Cheesecake Factory and how you love this one cheesecake or whatever. So loving your greens and respecting them is going to be really almost helping them come up with some options and reminding them of things that they've liked in the past. Because if they really have an opinion, they will share. But oftentimes they just don't care. It's not that they're being disrespectful, they just really are go along with the flow. The problem is if you stop asking them, or they have a red sibling that then is deciding for them all the time, then all of a sudden you're going to see your green and they are going to dig their feet in and they're like, we're not going to eat anywhere unless it's hibachi, period, the end. Like, because greens can be very stubborn if they feel like they've been pushed around. So that's why it's important to make sure that you are always checking in with your greens. And if they say they don't care and you double back, are you sure, remember this place, and they still say they don't care, you've got to believe them. But always don't just take it that that's how it's going to be forever. Because otherwise then you're going to think your green child who's so kind and nice has turned red overnight and they're just spitting fire. And that's what happens when greens get pushed around. So greens, do you feel like you might have a child that's green, or if you're green, you kind of identify and recognize some of these things? Yeah. Okay, so like I said, this feels like the most important piece to me of what we've done today. So I want us to take about 10 minutes again, and I want you to talk through which temperament's needs feel the most different from your own, ones that you just really, you know it's important, you know that yellow child of yours needs attention, but it is just, oh, it's so different than anything that you've ever felt in your life. And then which temperament do you find yourself misreading the most? What I mean by that is sometimes we think blues, because they can be more quiet or they need space and silence, that they're just apathetic or that they don't care, they don't want to be part of the group. But now that you know this is how they're wired, is it really something you've been misreading? Or maybe you think yellows are just so over the top, animated, and always trying to be center of attention, but now you realize what their needs are and you realize, gosh, it's just them trying to fill their needs and I have been misreading them or mislabeling them. So I'll be walking around, so if you guys have thoughts or questions, you can definitely stop me, but take a few minutes, about 10 minutes, and talk about this, and then we'll come up and wrap up this section before lunch. Sound good? Where this is what I love this, because if you are putting down your temperament and you're interacting with your mom and you know what she needs, you can almost, like if she was here and she heard this, then when somebody is almost trying to speak one of my needs for me, which I know it isn't their need, it almost fills my cup up more. Because I know that they're not, like my one daughter doesn't want to come home from college, who's blue, and sit and just like tell me all the scoop. And so when she does, it like fills my heart more, because she's really trying to fill my needs versus do hers. So you have opportunities to like try to look more alive when you're talking to your mom, you know, and then let her know, like, I'm working hard here to do this for you. Like, this is me loving you, you know? In fact, I did a marriage conference not long ago, and we talked about this, and this one blue husband was like, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna go to the party now. You just ruined it for me. So now I gotta go. His yellow wife really loved to go and do these social gatherings with like neighborhood friends, and he usually opts out. And they've been married a long time, and it was fine. You know, she was like, I'm gonna go by myself. And he told her, like, I'm gonna go with you to the party. And you would have thought he told her, you know, I bought you a diamond ring. She was so excited. And so when you do things outside of what your comfort is and your needs for other people, it really just speaks volumes. Yes, ma'am?
I have a question. Can I ask a question?
You absolutely can ask a question.
We were talking at our table, and when you mentioned being a yellow, but you became kind of a red when you were parenting, I feel like that's really, I mean, I feel like that kind of drives a lot of parenting. You have to be sort of task-oriented and making it happen. How, when time is tight and you consider different colors, how do you, because the magic is they're seen, right?
Yes.
They're seen, and that kind of sort of lets them move forward. But you have 3 kids with 3 different colors, and you have like a short time frame, and you have things you have to get done.
Yeah.
How do you recommend doing that? Because I think I can see it in my kids' eyes when we're like, really, I'm driving them hard, like, we gotta do this, we gotta do this, and they all need very different things, but I really need this task or movement as a group done. How do you do, like, what do you do?
Yeah, that's a great question. Did everybody get to hear that? What I would say is I'm the same way. I have 4 different kids. I was a single mom. I was doing it knowing, me talking about temperaments at home, and them knowing my temperament, and then really almost doing like weekly meetings of like, hey, this is what the week looks like, trying to like talk to each one, not when I'm rushed, but when I've set the time aside of, hey, blue child, I know Wednesday is going to feel hard for you, and this is why this is what's going on. You know, red child, this, you know, like almost prepping them ahead of time, so that way when you're in the moment of it, they're kind of aware what's happening, okay? And I mess up to this day all the time, so there's always on the fly, when a plan has to change or whatever, I can at least look at my blue daughter and be like, hey, I know this isn't ideal, I'm really sorry, but your sister was sick, this happened, we're gonna have to reroute here. I'm gonna give you a minute to kind of, we call it the moan. I'm gonna give you the moan minute, because it's changing, it's not ideal, I didn't want it to be this way, but your sister got sick. So I think it's just addressing along the way when you can, but trying to get ahead of it a little bit, so it feels like you're speaking their language ahead of time.
Okay, thanks.
You can try that. Any other questions or tables that want to share? No? Okay, well, we have just a couple minutes before lunch. Am I okay? Can I take 5 more minutes? Okay. So when your kids are operating in their best self, it's because their tank is full. And so you're going to see the strengths of each of their temperaments. And it's a beautiful thing. They're getting along, they're operating. When you start seeing the weaknesses, that is a clue to you that their tank is low. So when you start seeing a blue get moody, or a yellow start interrupting and exaggerating, you know, or a red being bossy, that's when you, instead of getting angry and thinking it's discipline time, you want to take a pause and go, what's going on? Why am I experiencing more weaknesses from their temperament? Because there's something that is hit, and that's why they are down. And it is, obviously, as a parent or as a coach or as a teacher, like, we have the opportunity to fill these kids up with some of their needs. But it takes a village, you know, and so that's where it takes everyone. That's why I love doing this in schools, so schools can, you know, kind of start to help partner with us. Because doing and saying the right things occasionally doesn't keep their tank filled permanently. So when you have a yellow that wants excitement and energy, and you're like, we went to Disney World and you had fun, as soon as you get home, they're like, what's next? And you're like, we just went to Disney. But that's how they're wired. They're looking for the next exciting thing. So that's where you have to just remember, what does this look like? And how can I dribble it throughout? what their needs are versus just like totally dedicate one child, one time, all the things and think that it's done. It isn't. It's really kind of pacing yourself through this. The big idea number 2 is that the child's innate needs are informing their behavior. So now that you know reds and blues and yellows and greens, when I talk through this, you're gonna be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. A red toddler drags a chair twice her size over to the pantry in search of snacks. She's self-directed, adventurous, and has thought through the plan. No need for mom's help, she's got things under control. Now you get it, right? Anybody had a kid like this? Anybody been the kid like this? Yeah. Okay, you have a blue tween. He breaks down in tears after missing the penalty kick in the soccer game. He is devastated that he let his team down. On the ride home, he is tearful and quiet in the back seat. He needs sensitivity. Familiar to anyone that has a blue child? Your yellow child enthusiastically is waving to the guy behind the counter at the deli, hollering, hi, 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 hi. He's people-oriented, cheerful, and energetic. He won't quit until he gets his attention. This was me. I was the one that, my parents divorced when I was 3 and we moved to Georgia, so I was the unaccompanied minor on a flight, and I would get walked on first, and I'd sit there, and the whole time I'm looking, who's sitting next to me? Who can I talk to? Who's sitting next to me? And I know if that poor person sat next to me and they were not, I didn't even care. I was completely unaware, and I would talk their ear off for the hour flight. Okay, you have a green child kindergartner who lets her siblings choose the restaurant for her birthday celebration to put an end to their debate. She's uncomfortable with conflict or tension between them and will do what she can to bring harmony to the situation. The last big idea is that your response to the child's natural wiring will either help or it will hurt. And so you get to decide how you show up. And as parents, our job is to help coach our children to become the best versions of themselves. And so how do we do that? We do that by thinking through it and responding in ways that might help. So when you think of that red little toddler that pulled that chair over to the pantry to get what she needed, if you're a blue mom, safety is important to you. So you might be thinking, ask for help. You're not big enough to do that. That's not safe. But what does that little red child need? Loyalty, sense of control, credit for work, right? She's proud of herself. She got her own snack. So if you want to coach her to be the best, she can also learn to be safe, but you could say, I love your confidence. You're so clever. But how about we move those snacks to the bottom shelf so it's easier next time? Right? You're not squashing her independence and her leadership. You're just helping foster safety in the middle of that. When we think about that blue that broke down in the car after missing the penalty kick, he's devastated. He let his team down, right? So on the ride home, he's tearful. He needs sensitivity and time to process. But you might not be blue. You might be yellow like me. You might want him to get over it. You might say, it's fine. He'll do better next time. You did great. But blues sniff that out. They know it's not true. So yellows, you can't just yellow all over it. Be like, you did fantastic. They're like, no, I didn't. I missed the kick. Shake it off. No Taylor Swift shaking it off happening with your blue child that misses the penalty kick, okay? But instead, maybe you just say, do you want to talk about it? They may say no, and you give them the space and silence, but when they're ready, they'll come talk about it. Your yellow toddler that is enthusiastically trying to get the deli counter's attention to wave and say hi. What do we know about yellow children? They want attention, right? They want the eye contact. They're outgoing, they're talkative, they're expressive, they're people-oriented. How do you respond? If you're a blue child, if you're a blue mom, and your yellow, very happy, energetic child is constantly trying to get his attention, you might respond, shh, be quiet. Stop bothering people, they are busy. I've had it with you. Is that helpful? No. What could you say? I love your energy. Let's go find someone to say hi to. Because maybe that deli clerk is busy. So the last thing we want to do is squash that yellow sparkle. We want to redirect it. So that way they can be the best versions of themselves. Our green kindergartner, which is my daughter, who let other people choose her birthday dinner, I would say, it's your birthday, you must decide. Don't let them choose. Stand up for yourself. Because her red sister would be like, oh, I want to go to sushi. We're going to go do that. I'm like, no, you have to pick. Then I'm creating stress for her. I could see her neck start getting hives on it because I'm like, no, you pick the restaurant. She's like, no, let Addie pick. But I could say, you are so kind and accommodating. Today is your day. What would you want to go to a place, maybe near the movie theater? Giving them options. Because we have to remember innate needs are designs. They're not defects. So, to just recap for us real quick, the child's wiring must inform your expectations of them. The child's innate needs inform their behavior, and your response to the child's natural wiring will either help or hurt. So, take a look at this, because this is what we're going for.
Take one.
How are you? Good. I'm so glad to see you. At your house, what do you hear your mom and dad saying most often?
Get off the couch! Come over and do the dishwasher! Oh, go clean your room. Oh, hurry up, hurry up. Then you need to do your laundry. I'm not warning you again. Be quiet.
Why?
Because we're really loud. Who took this? Who ate that? Why'd you do this? Why'd you do that?
You're being distracted.
Yeah.
Like, I need you to put it down.
Clean your room, do your chores. My dad says no. That's like all I hear.
Okay, and what
My mom says like, hurry up, what have you done productive today?
To unload the dishwasher, to clean the table, to wash the dishes.
Remember to bring your lacrosse stuff to lacrosse practice. Clean up your desk. How did you not find that? It was right there!
What's the nicest thing somebody's ever said to you?
I'm funny and my teacher says I have a good imagination. Someone said I have like a really nice personality and that I can be really respectful. Your smile is contagious. One of my friends said like you're the best person in the world.
Really? How did that make you feel?
Like somebody really cared about me.
Yeah.
My coach, I love him because even if we don't win or don't have a good game, he'll just be like, you guys did good. And he'll tell us what we did best and what we need to work on. I like hearing good things about myself from someone else.
Yeah. Has anybody ever said anything that hurt your feelings?
You're so obnoxious.
Really?
All the time. I hear that maybe once a day. Those little comments stick with me all the time.
Someone at my school said I wasn't good at like a certain sport we were doing for PE. It made me feel kind of sad and I should stop trying it.
This kid said I was a waste of life.
Oh, really?
It's just no one's a waste of life in my opinion.
That's right. What's the very favorite thing your mom and dad have said to you?
That they're proud of me?
Yeah.
They say you're gonna do great things one day. I love when my mom and dad like say I'm awesome and cool and like they love me.
I did hear like good job, well done, congratulations, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think it's I love you.
Really?
I really like that. My mom says I'm special sometimes.
Yeah.
And my dad says I'm a really hard worker.
Well, that must make you feel very valuable.
It does. She says like I'm beautiful, smart, pretty, and stuff.
Yeah.
Makes me feel nice and makes me feel more confident and positive.
My mom always tells me that like I'm the most determined, so it's always stuck with me. Like if I have a project, I just remember like I'm the most determined one. If I actually want to get this done, I can do it.
My dad tells me very frequently, and my mom tells me this a lot too, I'm glad you are my son. I just love that.
Oh, I just love that too. So, that is the first session, ladies and gentlemen. So, several of you might have asked, but you can get any of these books on Amazon, and you can even go online to our YouTube channel, I Said This, You Heard That, or Kind Words Are Cool, and there's a ton of free resources. There's even some downloadable like sheets that you can, if you want to have your kids that are a little bit younger, to be able to try to determine what their temperament is. And then we also have our digital assessment that is half off today. It gives you a 20-page report of kind of what your colors are. And I know we're going to check. I think if you do the assessment and you want to do it multiple people and you try to do it on your phone, we're having a hiccup. So our IT department is looking into that. But if you have a problem, let me know. They're working on it right now, so we'll get that fixed up for you guys. But I'll be back after lunch to talk about adult to adult, so hopefully some of you will stay and we'll have some other people join us. But enjoy your lunch and thanks for the morning session.